All right, cool, man. Well, we're rolling. Thanks for joining me, Daniel.
Dolan, thank you for having me, man. Ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely. So you're the owner of Quest Education,
Yes,
and you
sir.
and you also do a lot of other things as far as like teaching business owners and individuals a lot about finance. I know one of your big things is like get people out of like high interest debt, right? So why don't you tell me a little bit in your words though how this got started and what you do?
Yeah, so the problem that we solve in the marketplace is helping people access their money in their retirement accounts, like a 401k or IRA, in a penalty and tax-free way. So, society conditioned us to put money in a retirement account, and that money is locked away, and we can't touch it until we are retired. And if
Yeah,
we do manage to touch it, we're going to pay 30, 40% in penalties and taxes to the IRS. Well, that's not true. Maybe there's a need for you to use your retirement money in a different way besides the stock market. So, for example, I've got a client here in town. She used to be in the hair business, used to work the 9 to 5, employee road, and she wanted to start an online business. And she had money in a retirement account and wanted to be able to access that money in a way that was penalty and tax free to start her online business. And she wasn't getting any love from her financial advisor. They weren't able to really help her facilitate this. So we educated her on what's called a solo 401k. And then from there, she was able to access her retirement account dollars, penalty and tax free, use that money to buy a bunch of products for her FBA, for her online business. And now she's not working as an employee. She's working full time from home, and she's her own boss, right? That's the American dream, and being able to facilitate that.
yeah, I really like that idea because actually that's one that hits kind of near and dear to me. So I got my accounting degree, and obviously learned a lot about that. But I quickly realized, like entering into the accounting field, that I didn't want to be like a CPA. I wanted to be more of like an entrepreneurial accountant, right? Kind of like helping people know the numbers but love their business. And I wanted to start a business, and so I'm like, man, but where am I going to get the capital? And then I realized, I had money in a 401k because I worked for Honda for a long time. And, uh, and yeah, kind of navigating through that because there's a lot of people who have like healthy 401ks, um, but they want to start a business and they could probably do better on returns starting their business than if they left it in the stock market. And I'm assuming that's kind of what you go for.
I mean, it really comes down to just solving a problem. I
Okay.
think a lot of people in the financial space can get a bad rap in the sense of they're there to just push insurance. They're there to push stocks and just sell you a bunch of stuff to give you commission and for them to get commission. And they don't care. And I'm not saying that's all financial professionals, but I think a lot of people can agree that most of this stuff just goes over people's head and they don't want to deal with it. And at the end of the day, they'd rather leave it in someone else's hands. And I'm not here to tell people what's right or wrong. Our company's here is just to provide information, pull the curtain back, really just give them the financial game, the playbook, and let them run with it. So, to your point, there's been plenty of people, once we educate them on the concept of accessing the retirement account dollars penalty and tax free, they're like, okay, so I've got my money in this 401k making me 8% a year, and it's in these stocks that I have no control over. And the
Right.
stock market can take a crap anytime,
Right.
or I could use that same money and put it in this business that I feel way more confident about. Like that's a
Yeah.
no-brainer for some people, right? And that same logic can also go to debt. Maybe someone right now listening, watching has, $20,000 in credit card debt and they're paying 20% interest. You're getting crushed if you are paying double-digit interest rates. And
Yeah.
especially if it's credit card debt, your utilization rate's going up, your credit score is going down. Same logic. Maybe you've got this retirement account that's making you 5, 6, 7, 8% a year, whatever it is. If it's a lot lower than the amount of money you're paying in interest on your debt, it might make sense to access your retirement account penalty and tax free, pay off the high interest rate credit card debt. And then there's a way for you to replenish your retirement account so you're not robbing from your future. So there's a few different ways, a few different approaches. We just like to take the approach here at Quest Education. Let's just ask questions. Let's understand, where's point A, where is this person starting, and map it out. Where are they trying to go? What problems can we solve along the way? And that's worked well for us over the years.
Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you find most people get caught up with when you pitch this idea? Because it's easy for someone like you and me. Like I had, it wasn't a big amount, but I had 10K that I wanted to access in my in my 401k because it was enough for the business that I wanted to start, right? And that's a lot of money for some people. And so but it was easy for me. It was like, I want to start this business. I know that I can make it back or double it, or that I'll get out of it. But what do you think's the challenge for some people when you pitch this idea to them that they get hung up on?
Well, one, the qualifying factor. The IRS
Okay.
will let you take out 50% of the account value, or 50,000, whichever number is less, penalty and tax free.
Okay.
So we like to talk to people that have at least $30,000 or more, right? If I would have talked to you, with that 10,000, I probably would have been like, hey man, if you do take the money out, you're able to take $5,000 out, but then, it just might make more sense for you to cash it out, right? I mean, maybe the
Yeah.
tax rate, and I'm not here to give advice or tell you what you should have done, but it just depends on
Sure.
like
Sure.
income that year, things like that. So it just comes down to the dollar amount for sure, and then also the skepticism, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right. That's
a
kind
lot
of what
of
I was getting to. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of times people are just like, well, why hasn't my financial advisor told me about this? Well,
Right.
well, follow the
Because he
money.
wants it in there.
I don't
Because
know,
he wants it in there.
yeah, for sure. I've got a book coming out, Blueprint to Your Best Retirement, coming out in August, and one of the
Okay.
chapters talks about uncovering fees. I can't tell you, Dalton, how many people say this. Well, I don't have any fees for my retirement account. Like, I don't see any fees on my statements. Like, okay, so I never knew Fidelity was a nonprofit. Like, I never knew Wall Street were nonprofits. That's news to me. Like, that's cool. Kudos to
For
them.
sure, dude. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
we know that's not true. So there's a lot of hidden fees. You got to follow the money. Wall Street, and you alluded to this earlier, they want money inside the account. They make 1-2% a year assets under management. Why are they going to
Right.
teach you a method to access your own money, penalty and tax free, to start your dream business so you can quit your job? Why are they going to teach you a concept that's going to allow you to access your retirement money, penalty and tax free, to invest into real estate?
Yeah.
It doesn't make them money. So they're not going to be forthcoming a lot of the times and explain this. So it's getting over that skepticism. And it's like, okay, well, I've never heard of this before. Is this even legitimate? And, the
And
audience
it
is going
is.
to
Yeah.
get one nugget: solo 401k. Like, you can Google it. It's an IRS approved plan. It's for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that have no W-2 employees. It's been around for a long time. It's the real deal.
Oh, for sure. Well, and what's crazy is like someone who has an accounting background personally, like, people don't understand that there are so many loopholes. Like, one of the things I get frustrated with, as just someone who, like, I'm sure you do, is like, I don't understand why Amazon's not paying any taxes, or why Elon Musk isn't paying any taxes or anything like that. And they're mad at like this fake, and I don't want to get into politics, but they're mad at like this fake system. And I'm like, it was created so that you could, it's literally written there. There's nothing illegal about what they're doing. You know what I mean? And so, like, they get mad about this thing, but I'm like, I can show you how to do it if you want. Like, I want to learn how to pay no taxes. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Because there's ways, you know what I mean? And so, but people just don't know that, or they think that like there's some shady stuff going on. And most of the time it's completely legitimate. You just got to know what you're doing.
That's why I love masterminds.
Yeah.
Being around other people in a bigger network, you can get to see what other people are doing, right? And you get to hear these other strategies. I mean, it just comes down to who you're surrounding yourself with, right? If you're
Right.
hanging around a bunch of people that aren't entrepreneurs, that aren't thinking bigger, you're going to get a lot of pushback. Like, well, that sounds like a scam. Like, okay, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of explaining it in a logical manner that's simple, but then also people have to do their research and due diligence too. And we always tell people, like, just Google it, go to the IRS's website. It's on the IRS. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of giving them the proper education.
So tell me, so you have your company, but then you were just saying that, you're working on this book, Blueprint to Your Retirement. What are some of the things that you hope people learn now so that they can take advantage of their retirement, versus being really scared? Because there's a lot of people, I really think that there's like a retirement crisis. A lot of people just, I don't know what it is either, man. What are your insights?
Yeah, one thing that we're having a lot of conversations about, and actually was just talking to someone today about it, is the concept of taxes going up, right? No matter who you voted
Mhm.
for, Trump, Biden, who cares? Taxes are going up regardless, right? So how can you make sure 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like you're in a good spot? And one thing that we talk to people about is the solo 401k. If you qualify for it, you can contribute up to $58,000 per year into that plan, and you can make that contribution as a Roth contribution. That's a
Yeah.
game changer. And for the people that don't know what a Roth contribution is, that's basically you taking $10,000, putting it into a Roth solo 401k, paying taxes on that 10,000. So you still have to claim that 10K as income, but it grows tax free and it stays tax free. So if that 10,000 grew to 100,000 over a period of time, that's 100% tax free. So you're paying taxes on the seed, not the harvest. So even if the
Mhm.
tax rate were to double, it doesn't affect you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
having a bucket of money that is Roth is super, super important, especially in the year 2021.
Yeah, yeah, Roth IRAs. I don't know, not sure why, a lot of people don't get the Roth ones. You know what I mean? Probably because like a lot of us are just so dependent on like employers, like 401ks and like matching and stuff like this. I'm like, you can start a Roth on your own and you can like bypass your 401, trying to tell somebody that like, hey, you don't have to do it with your company. Like it's great. Like if they're matching, like go for it. But if they're not matching and it's just there, like, why don't you just go start your Roth IRA? It's going to serve you way better in the long run.
It just comes down to financial literacy, but then also commitment, right? Like commitment.
Oh,
How
shoot.
committed are you to having a better financial plan now and in the future? Because that takes
Yeah.
time, right? That takes time researching it on your own or researching and making sure that who you're getting advice from, who you're working with, is the proper type of information, right? Like trust, but verify, right? Like I hear something cool. Like I'm gonna go talk to other successful entrepreneurs that are way more successful than me and get
Yeah.
their input. I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna check, right? And that takes commitment. That takes time, and a lot of people don't want to put in that kind of work. So you're right. It's Roth IRA. You can only put in 6,000 a year. It's not much, but shoot, if you did that every year for 10 years, that's 60K in contributions. And if that were to
Yeah.
compound and grow every year, there's no reason why you can't have a couple hundred grand just chilling and it's 100% tax free.
100% tax free. That when you pull out, you can do whatever with it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different strategies, man. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's the main goal with what I have going on right now. Our mission, our core
Mhm.
values, what we bring to the table as a company. I've got a small firm out here in Las Vegas, got 14 employees, and we're super
Oh, wow.
passionate about giving people the game, pulling the curtain back, and educating them. And then through my book that's coming out in August, want to give people the playbook, have them get a taste and much more than that, actually information that's actionable that they can use to better their situation. And then, I've got a podcast called How Winners Win, and
Yeah, I saw
talk a
that.
little bit about financial literacy in that regard, but also just sharing entrepreneurship and personal struggles to help people win with their finances, their business, and their personal life.
Yeah, so, I mean, so I have a lot of questions, like, there's a lot that I wanna talk about, but the first thing I think that would be beneficial is, how did all this start? So, is this something that you always wanted to do, like teach people about financial literacy, or how did this all come about?
No, man. I truly believe there's a couple different ways to get to your calling, so to speak. Right? You've got the sports star that was like, man, I was 5 years old in the backyard shooting, sky hooks, and I pictured myself, in the NBA championship. Like that's cool. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
You've got people that are business owners now, and we're, I was 5 years old selling baseball cards. I was mowing lawns and had my own business at 7. Like
Heck yeah.
that's cool, man. Like that just wasn't me. So I think there's that side, people that have those grand thoughts and
Yeah.
ambition at a young age, and then there's people that were molded by their environment and they saw things happen and they're like, well, I don't want that to happen to me, right? So I'm on
Yeah.
that side. I grew up middle class. When I was 12 years old, things really changed. My dad moved to Mexico. My parents got divorced. And now I'm just being my mom. My mom's working all day. She's a social worker at this time. I'm 12 years old. I'm going into puberty, trying to figure out who I am, and I have no supervision. Right, so I start getting into
That's
drugs
hard. Yeah.
in high school. I start hanging out with the wrong crowd, and just really was going down a really bad path. And then I was still kind of fighting some internal demons with divorce and seeing my dad leave and things like that. So I was struggling there. And I barely passed my junior year in high school in California. And then before I started my senior year, my mom's like, hey, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of town. There's no way you're going to graduate if you stay the course. So we had one family that we knew in St. George, Utah. And she's just like, I feel good about shipping you to St. George, Utah. Let me call them and see if you can hang out with them and stay with them and go to school with them. I was like, all right, I'm down, whatever. So thank God for them. Shout out to the Severe family. I was able to stay with them. I went to Dixie High in St. George, and I was able to graduate. I was still lost though. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have standards. I didn't have core values. I was still lost. I was still struggling, and ended up getting into sales because society told me to go to college. So I graduated high school. I went to Dixie State. I played soccer. The only reason why I went to college was to play soccer. I didn't even go to class because I was like, what am I going to school for? Like, I have no plan. Like, I don't know what kind of degree. So soccer was done. 3 months into my freshman year, I'm like, okay, now what? I'm roofing at the time. And for the people that know St. George, Utah, the weather is like 120 degrees in the summer, and I'm on the roofs roofing, right? It's hot, right? I mean, this ain't my life. And just by meeting the right people, I was able to get in sales. Had no idea I would be in sales at 18, but I just excelled at sales. Just being able to communicate. I think me playing sports as a kid helped with those that skill set. I was communicating with people and leading a group of people, so I was able to move up the ranks. I always wanted to make 100 grand. Like just seeing my mom struggle and us just be in a tough spot. I just wanted to make 100 grand. It's like, if I could make 100 grand, like, mama, we made it. Like, we're rich, and we know how naive that is. So I did that at 18, but then I never knew how to handle money. I never saw people with money. So I started spending more than I was making. I ended up getting addicted to Oxycontin at this time because, again, back to my point, I didn't know who I was. I didn't have standards. So, people were going to influence me in a bad way. So I got addicted to Oxycontin and ended up having a kid at 19. I got a girl pregnant in St. George, Utah at 18 years old. So here I am, like, dude, I'm a druggie. I'm 19 years old. I just have a kid. Like, what am I doing with my life? And I truly believe that God gave me a daughter for a reason. At that point in my life, I was a kid having a kid. I didn't even know how to raise a kid. And all I knew, I just, I didn't want to give her a bad life. I didn't want to be absent in her life. So she definitely helped me get clean. I'm 32 years old today. I've been clean for 12 years. And that was definitely a pivotal moment for me. So being able to be a dad at that age and get into sales and networking, I was able to get to the point where I am today.
Wow. What a cool story. What was your first sales job?
Sold real estate coaching. I don't know if you remember the radio station right there.
Oh,
off
yeah.
the freeway. Yeah.
Okay. So my brief time in St. George, we learned a lot about the history. So I know we were with, one of the older guys in St. George, and every time he would drive us around, he would be like, let me tell you a story about this. So he briefly mentioned that, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's where I got started. I was 18 years old. It's so funny, man. I was roofing at the time, and networking, guys, is the key, right? We all hear it. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And at this time, I'm roofing. Remember that Chili's there in St. George, one and only. So I was roofing Chili's. So I was remodeling it, and I was hating life, bro. And I got invited to a party, and the owner of the house Halloween party that I went to, I walk in his house and I look at his house. I'm like, man, you got a nice house, bro. I'm like, what do you do for a living? He's like, sales. He's like, what about you? And he just goes into close mode. I'm like, I roof. He's like, do you like it? I'm like, hell no. He's like,
no one likes roofing.
He's like, do you want a job? I'm like, I look at his house. I'm like, yeah, why not? He's like, show up at my office tomorrow. So I showed up at his office. Before I walk in the office, I just see, this is 07. So I see like Range Rovers, Beamers, Mercedes. And I was like, dang, these dudes are making money. And I walk in the office and it's just like, boom, huge, just buzz. And all these dudes are just jamming. I'm like, I'm in.
Dude, that's sweet though. There's something great about sales. I feel like every entrepreneur, at least that I've met, started out in sales, and it's very like I have a very similar story. Like I was working construction. Like my grandpa, I'm from Iowa. My grandpa's just a construction guy the whole time. It was like this, and I remember similar to you, like showing up one morning at like 4 in the construction thing, and I was like, there were no other at the time in my family. There were no other college graduates in my family. My mother had like a recreational degree in college, but like she wasn't making money with it. But I was like, dude, I do not want to do construction the rest of my life. Like I've got to figure out something to do. Like I got to go to college. I got to do something because I'm not doing this. And I drove by a car dealership, and I had been told in high school that I was like, everybody thinks you'll be a good salesman. So I was like, I got nothing to lose. Might as well. And so I did, and then it kind of took off. But um but it was because of like networking. Like I had friends who kept telling me, like when I would go places, like you shouldn't be doing this, man. You like to talk to people, you like to help people. And I feel like that's what sales is. That's a big part of it. And a big part of networking is just finding ways to help people.
Yeah, straight up. I think that's something that probably a lot of people can relate to is people think like you have to be so ultra clear on what you want. And like that's absolutely true. Like you do have to be really defined in who you are, what you want, where you want to go. But when you're young and you're trying to figure it out, I was on the other side. I didn't know what I wanted. I was just super clear on what I did not want, right? Like I did not want to
Yes.
live paycheck to paycheck. I did not want to have a scarcity mindset and see
Mm,
my mom struggle, right? Like so I was just really
mhm.
clear on what I did not want. And knowing what I did not want, I was willing to find opportunities to put in the work and bust my butt to make sure I didn't get those things that I didn't want. And then as I matured and got older, I could get more clear on, okay, like this is where I want to be in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like what you brought up there because a lot of people do get hung up on that. They're like, what am I going to do? But if you have the this is what I don't want, and I have this idea, then then as you start working towards things, it starts to evolve,
Yeah, it
right?
morphs.
Like your goals start to evolve. Like I started this podcast, a year and a half ago, and like it's opened a lot of doors for me that I would have never thought of. But it's because I didn't want to stay in the place that I was at. And it sounds like you have a similar story with that. And it sounds like, I mean, that's a great place to start if you got to start. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. You figure out what you don't want and
Yeah,
then you work your
yeah,
butt off. Like
yeah. Yeah,
this,
no, absolutely. Work your butt off for sure,
yeah.
man. Because one of the things that you talk about that I always love to, because I was reading in your bio and everything, talking about just playing the cards that you were dealt, right, in life. Like sometimes you don't get to choose circumstances, but you can definitely choose how you get out of them and how you make your life. What are some of the points that you tell people like to capitalize on, or how do you teach people to play the best hand with the cards that they're dealt?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a really good point. It's how you react. It's what you do. The world is not fair, right? Like at the end of the day, like no one's gonna get the cards that they want to get. I think when we're younger, we can get that pass, right? Like I'm 12 years old, my parents divorced, my dad moves to Mexico, and now it's just me and my mom. I didn't choose that, right? Like I
Sure,
was
sure.
dealt that card, right? But then I'm 18 years old and I'm choosing to get high. I'm doing Oxycontin. Like I chose that, right? So as you get older, you have more influence on the cards that are being dealt. And there are some,
Mm,
events that, the universe or God or the creator has to do with, and it's out of your control. But other than an act
yeah.
like that, like you have control over everything. And
Mhm.
I think it takes going through some tough moments in your life where you get to a point where you either play the victim and you sulk and you complain, or you're just like, okay, cool. Like this happened to me because of this lesson that I'm learning. or this is going on
Mhm.
because this is making me tougher. And when I come out on the other side, I'm going to have way more wisdom and be way more better off. Right. So it's about perspective, and that comes with age, right? That comes with wisdom, but you
Yeah.
can speed that process up by surrounding yourself with other people that have been there, gone down that path, and can share some of that wisdom as long as you're receptive to it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's totally true because it's tough for me to see and to talk to people who have a hard time with this scarcity mindset, with this idea that, you know, things happen to me and there's nothing I can do because it's just so frustrating for me. It's like I want to just grab them and like shake them and be like, "No, dude, like we can snap out of this and we can do this." And there's people right next door to you who are doing the same thing that we can really draw inspiration from. And I appreciate you coming on and everything you're doing because it's just another one of those things that's like, look, it's hard, but like, you can figure this out. And I guess that's part of, I haven't had a chance to listen to How Winners Win, your podcast, but I'm definitely going to tune in because I mean, it's just that's what you want to know. That's what we want to know is like, how do I make this happen for me? Like, when is it my turn and how do I make it my turn?
Yeah, and I think we all can get caught up in it. I've been guilty of this and
Sure.
thinking your situation is so unique, right? Like, dude, there's people out there that are struggling the same way that you are. In fact, they actually have a worse hand and have a worse situation, and they're making the most of it. They're actually doing better, right?
Right.
So, the world keeps spinning. It's like, okay, you're going through something that sucks, and like you have
Yeah.
to move
Yeah.
on. There's still
Mhm.
things that you need to do the next day. There's people still counting on you. You're still losing time. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not promised that you're going to wake up tomorrow and be alive,
Mhm.
right? So, you got to be grateful for what you do have, and focus on what you can control. It's easier said than done, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, that's how winners win, right? They focus on what they can control, and they take massive action.
Massive action. But it's absolutely true though. It's just so crazy to me how many times. But then again, that's why there's so many podcasts like this, and why there's so many people like this that we get these principles. And I guess that's where I like to be a little different in the sense that I like the story. So I love your story. Is Quest Education the first business that you owned?
Yeah, I was 28 years old, and
Oh,
this
nice.
is
What
this is
made you
a
want to start it?
I when I lost a lot of money, I bought a house in 2008, right before the crash,
Okay.
in St. George. I was making 100 grand a year, six figures.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Bought a Range Rover, bought a house, was on drugs, spending more than I'm making, and everything went downhill. You can only sustain so long, especially when you're on
Right.
drugs, right? So I ruined my credit, didn't have anything to show for it. Ended up moving to Las Vegas. This was 2009, and I just vowed, I'm just like, man, like I'm not going down that road again. So when I came back and moved from St. George to Vegas, I developed different habits. I developed more of a conservative lifestyle. I spent way less than what I made. I focused on building my credit. And as I made more money, I was able to put myself in a position where I'm like, okay, I've always been a high performing employee everywhere I've been. Like, what's next? Like, I guess the
Right.
next step is being an entrepreneur and controlling my time. And I love sports. I was always gravitating towards leading a team and being around other people. I'm just like, man, like this whole idea of being a business owner, like, hell yeah, like I like this because it's just like sports. You're trying to figure out how to put people in the right places and how to win, how to get the
Right,
W on the
right.
scoreboard. And I was just like, okay, well, if I can save some money and have good credit and find a company or a service that I can stand behind, I'm just like, let's do it. So I was
Yeah.
able to really go all in, put a bunch, met some right people, met the right people at the right time too. That's a big part of being a high
Yeah,
performer. There's other people along the way that can mentor you, that you learn from.
yeah.
You got to be in the right place at the right time, but you also have to make sure that you are staying ready. So then that way you don't have to get ready when the time presents itself. So there was a
Mm.
time that presented itself where my credit was on point. I had enough money set aside. I was able to go all in and started Quest Education, maxed out credit cards, put in a bunch of cash. And, that's what entrepreneurs do. We gamble on ourselves and we take a bunch of risk.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So what's your number one or what are a few things? Because networking for you was a big part. And I mean, it is, right? Like that's why I love this podcast. One of the main things it did for me was help me network with so many amazing individuals like yourself. Like it helped me just open these doors that I'm like, holy crap, everybody's, and people are a lot more friendly than we realize.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing I learned about networking is like, I don't know how to network. Well, you didn't even ask. You know what I mean? But for you, like what were some of the secrets to networking for you? Like what were some of the, like, what did you do? How did you do it?
Just build real relationships, right? Like at the end
Right,
of the
right.
day, there is that human element, right? And people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And when I was on the front lines, when I was selling, I always would see those salespeople that were just like hardcore pitching, really
Mhm.
sounding desperate, just being too pushy. And at the end of the day, like sales, you do have to, have an aggressiveness, so to speak, right? But there's just that line, right? Networking is the same way, right? It's got to happen organically, and you got to find ways that you can bring value to the relationship. If you're trying to network with someone and all you're doing is asking for something, like that's just not going to fly. And it's like that friend that always wants something from you, or every time they talk they're bitching, and hopefully I can cuss, right? They're just negative, right? So it's just like
Yeah, yeah,
eventually
yeah.
you're just like, okay, like I'm losing my patience, man. Like I'm over
Yeah,
this relationship. So, how can
right.
you find ways to add value to that relationship? And I know that's something that's common right now. It's like add value, add value, add value.
As a buzzword.
Just be yourself. Like if you can just really be yourself, and find ways to stay in front of somebody in a creative way, in a way that you can get to know that person better, and develop an actual relationship. There's going to be things that come from it. It might not happen next month. It might not happen 2 months from now. It might not even happen this year, but like you never know. There's been a lot of relationships that I developed, and 2 years later we start doing business, right? And it just happens.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other thing is like you just never know who you're gonna meet too. So always like getting into a relationship, with like whether you're networking or whatever, just coming into that just ready to like give, and value like is a big buzzword right now, like value and trust and rapport and all these things. But it's really simple. Like I think we try to like romanticize difficult. Like we like to make things more difficult than they are. At least that's what I've learned, you know. And like a lot of people try to like make networking difficult. It's like, dude, be with people that you like and just give as much as you can.
Yeah, and like just help them, right? Like there's been
Right.
plenty of
Yeah, just
times
like, yeah.
where I talk to people and I can't help them, but I'm just like, okay, you do this. I got a buddy over here that does that. All right, cool. Let me put you guys in a group text. Like
Yeah.
just connect people. That's
Yeah.
been a big thing for me, is just connecting people, right? And again, the
Yeah.
more people that you meet, then you have a bigger Rolodex, and you're just like, okay, well, he does this, he does that, she does this, and you
Yeah,
start
it's a
talking to
beautiful thing.
people. There's always people that have a problem, or they're always wanting to have something that's a focal point. And it's just like if you can be a matchmaker, like that's certainly giving you equity in that relationship. You're certainly giving more than you're taking, right? With that kind of relationship.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And you were also talking about one of the things I kind of want to go back to because I thought it was funny. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of anything, but you were talking about, uh, you wanted to make 100 grand, and that resonated with me so much because that's exactly what happened to me. Like when I was in sales, I was like, dude, if I can make 100 grand, like I'm doing really good. And then I quickly realized that like $100,000 a year is not that much money. And then
No,
like and
man.
it's and it's not that much money when you know like what to do with it. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. And again, it just goes back to what I did not want. My first job, I was 16. I bagged groceries.
Mm,
I made $6.25 an hour. Okay,
gee.
I don't want this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I just saw, our financial life at that point. Single mom, I'm in California. It's expensive out there. Social
Yeah.
workers don't make a ton of money, right? So it's we're
Yeah,
running a tight
unfortunately.
ship, right? So I just knew, I'm like, man, 100 grand a year, like I'm balling, right? And it's just pretty funny to look back at that for sure.
Because you look back at it and you're like, yeah, because I do the same thing. I'm like, dude, 100, I mean, 100 grand is not a lot. and especially, and it's even less when you don't know what you're doing. And so
For
helping
sure.
people understand, like, because you also mentioned like, um, the financial literacy part of the game, and not knowing, like, we're never around people who handled their money. So is that part of what you do as well? Do you teach people about money? Do you teach people about taxes and what they can do?
Yeah, so we stay in our lane. Our bread and butter is
Sure.
solo 401ks, self-directed retirement accounts. And just because we're talking about a vehicle like that, then credit scores get brought up, then funding for their business gets brought up, paying off debt gets brought up. Hey, did you know that you could use this retirement account to invest into this flip or this private lending, or you could use it
Oh,
to invest in
wow.
crypto? Right? I mean, there's like a lot of
Yeah.
different things you can use a solo 401k for. But again, back to networking and building relationships, we just want to solve problems. So, if a
Yeah.
client comes to us and they're just like, hey man, like I need help getting an SBA loan or a line of credit. I
Right.
don't have anyone in house that does that. That's not what we do at Quest Education, but I got this referral partner over here that can help you. Awesome. Let me get you over there. Right. So, essentially we are a hub, right? Maybe
Yeah.
someone needs help with an estate plan, a trust, a will. Okay, cool. We got you. We've got a trusted referral partner that we work with there. So, definitely when it comes to financial literacy and in that space, we do our best to give as much information and value as we can. And if we cannot be the ones to actually fulfill that product, we've got someone that can.
Yeah, absolutely. So besides business though, like what keeps you going? Like as Daniel, like, because as business owners, we love it, and as entrepreneurs, we get so involved. But I'm curious, like, what else? What keeps you going besides your business or besides this?
The chase, like, and it just goes back to sports, man. Like, it's funny. I was joking with
Yeah,
a buddy
dude.
the other day. I started golfing, and I don't know why I golf. Like, I suck, and it's frustrating. But I'm trying to get better, right? Like,
Right, right,
I'm
right.
just a stubborn mf'er, right? Like, okay, how can I get more customers? How can I get more employees? How can my employees get paid more?
Yeah,
I go to the gym every morning. Cool. Like, how can I press more? How can I squat more? Like, I'm just
right.
constantly, even if it's 0.01%, like, I'm just trying to get a little bit better every
That
day,
was an
right?
improvement. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm 32 years old, so I'm just like, okay, if I can just get a little better every single day, we're gonna see what 42 looks like. Time flies, right? So
yeah.
I'm constantly competing with the person in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, and that's who we all should be. I think when one of the reasons, like, for sales for me, uh I was always like, a true athlete only competes with themselves. Like, that's how you get better and better, like, because it's just you versus you, and eventually, you pass everybody up, because the better you get, people just don't think like that, right? And I think the same way. That's my definition of success, is like, all of it could come and go, but knowing that I can get better every day, and knowing that, we can help people every day, like, that means a lot. And um and I feel like that's a more widely accepted, kind of definition of success. But what does success look like for you in your business? Like, what's a successful day? What's a successful year?
Changing people's lives, man. It's funny. I don't get on the phones too much these days. I don't talk to customers too much these days. I've got an
Sure.
amazing team. But I got a random phone call one day from a number I don't have in my caller ID. And I answer my phone and he's just like, hey, I'm looking for so and so. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, how'd you get my number? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, man. Well, I'm looking you up in our Salesforce, our CRM. Like, what's up,
Yeah.
Gary? And so I gave him what he was looking for. I'm like, hey man, I'm just curious. Like, I'm the owner of the company, and can you give me some feedback, man? Like, you've been working with us for the last 2 months. Like, oh my gosh, dude! Like, your team is awesome. Like, you guys do what you say you're gonna do. I paid off $50,000 worth of high interest rate credit card debt.
Oh,
Like, me and my
wow.
wife are freaking so much happier. Like, we're less stressed. Like, your team
Yeah.
always answers in a prompt manner. Like, I love you guys. And I was like,
No.
dude, thank you, bro. Like, that's why we do what we do, to change someone's life like that, and give, a lot of impact in someone's financial situation. So that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Well, that's what we should all do. I mean, really, at the end of the day, like, I heard it one time, like there's no U-Haul behind a funeral procession, but there is people who remember you. You know,
Yeah.
there is a legacy that you can leave, and so is that. So what are your goals, man? Like, what are you trying to do? Obviously helping people. Obviously, you're talking about changing people's lives, but is there anything other than that that like you hope this does, or like that it evolves to, or like that you want to get into?
So I really want to keep growing Quest Education. I want to, a lot of the people that are with us, they've been with us since day one. So, I want to see them grow. I want to see them make more money. I want to see them get more skills. So in that
For
way they
sure.
can have, a prosperous life. At the end of the day, I love our customers, but our employees, they're what's most important, because if I have crap employees, then I'm going to have crappy customer service, and if I have crappy customer service, I'm not going to have customers, right? So, doing our best to make sure that we have good culture, and developing our employees so they can have an opportunity to grow. So, really just want to keep growing Quest Education. We're a 3-year-old
Yeah.
company, so in the grand scheme of things, we're a toddler, we're a baby. We still have a long way to go. And then I've got a few different endeavors. Like, I'm really big into health and fitness and sports.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna go play soccer tonight. I'm still on a team, indoor soccer, so I love doing that. So I'd love to coach a team and be involved with the team and something like that. But right now my purpose is being present here with the company, and leading the firm, so we can keep growing, and adding new customers, and improving our customer experience, and
Yeah.
providing a better opportunity for the employees as well. So then that way, when the opportunity does present itself, I can delegate more, and not be as involved in the business, and do other things.
Yeah, kind of put it on autopilot. I mean, that's the dream, though, isn't it? Is
For
like to have
sure.
a business that you could put on autopilot. That, to me, that's the definition of passive income, or like residual income, is like having a business that is on autopilot. You got people you can trust that are happy, that have the same vision and goals as you, and then you can just like keep going, and focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It's all about the asset. The asset's the team, right? If you can have the
Right.
right team, the right processes, the right systems, the right type of efficiency, the right type of synergy, and you're solving a problem, and you got great customer service, great fulfillment, like that's huge.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being here, and sharing everything with us. So, can you tell us, like, if anybody has heard this and wants to get involved with what you're doing, or check you out, like, where can they find you?
Best place would be to go to danielblue.me. That's my
Okay.
website. It's got all my social media handles. I'm pretty active on Instagram and Facebook. It's got my company's website, Quest Education. Also has information on podcast, How Winners Win. We drop an episode once a week there. And then I've got a course, teaches people how to make money tax free, touches bases on solo 401ks, and some of the
Oh,
concepts that we
nice.
talked on this podcast. So link to the course there. And then information on where to get the book when it comes out in August. So that's the hub right there. And then depending
Yeah.
on what you're looking for, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the course, or maybe you're someone
Yeah.
that has, 401k from an old job or an IRA, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know I could do some of these things that Daniel talked about. Then go to danielblue.me, and then click the link for Quest Education. And then through that website, you'll be able to put your contact information, and then my team can reach out to you, and give you some love.
Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Let me ask one more question. You mentioned you had a course. How was creating that course? And are you hosting it anywhere, like, or is it just on your website? Or are you doing like a Udemy or Thinkific thing?
Yeah, we use Kajabi.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Good
been
job.
it's funny, man. Like, we one of the episodes, I think it's episode 10, 11 on How Winners Win. My
Uh-huh.
co-host and I just talk about limiting beliefs, and it's just really easy to get caught up having limiting beliefs when it comes to content creation, right? Like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
should I start a podcast? Like, people aren't going to care about what I say. Like, man, should I do this video? Like, I look stupid.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no one's going to be really good when they first get started. So that's why you just got to take action, right? Like, you got to focus on one or two things, take a bunch of action, make the necessary tweaks, look at the results from the marketplace, look at
Yeah.
the stats, make tweaks, keep taking action. So yeah, man, the course is fun. I think it's got like 9 modules on there, and we give the playbook there in terms of, everything that you need to know in terms of, making money tax free with self-directed accounts and solo 401ks. So there's no fluff. It's got a bunch of tactical information for people that they can get some help with.
That's pretty cool. I really like that because, courses are a big thing, and I feel like that's the future of education. Is just we're going to be able to learn from each other for a lot less than a college, and get more out of it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's really cool. And yeah, and you're right about the limiting beliefs. Like one of the things I tell people is just start. Like,
Yeah.
just be okay with you not being like you're not going to be whoever
Tony
the
Robbins.
first time. Yeah. The first time you do a podcast, you're not gonna be Joe Rogan
Yeah.
or some of these other guys. You're just gonna just start, dude.
Yeah.
Just get it out there, and you'll figure it out as you go. And that's okay. That's part of the journey, man. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything, and I look forward to reading your book and checking out your podcast and everything else, brother.
Thank you, Dalton. Appreciate you having me, dude, and love what you're doing, man. Keep on the good fight.
Thank you.